Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. How you all doing? It's a one-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, 8:30 p.m. in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone here, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Welcome. And don't come back now. Okay. Where was I? If you have any questions or would like to make this your home group, please see any group member after the meeting. The Conscious Contact Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps that is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Wow, good stuff. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Miss B.
Yeah, Beatrice, recovered alcoholic. Next weekend, Stepping Stones will have a big book weekend with Bob T coming to town. So if you're on Facebook, it's posted as well.
Yeah. Get in.
April 11th, no, 10th, 11th, and 12th is the annual roundup in Cape Med. If you need more information, just come see me.
Good stuff. If you've never been to a roundup or a convention, please take advantage of it. You see the speakers we bring in from them. They are powerful. Anything else? You got them all? Okay. Where was I? We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for purchase of books and CDs can put them in the jar over there. If you'd like a CD of any speaker, past or present, see me after the meeting, or Brian, or any home group member here. They're available free of charge. And we always need help. And plus, we got the anniversary meeting coming up. It's up there on 4/25/2015. I know there was an anniversary meeting tonight at Mount Carmel. You know, give you time to lose weight, get back in a nice lean stomach to restart again on 4/25. Okay, the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others recover from alcohol. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I have asked Anna to please come up and read the 12 steps of AA.
My name is Anna and I'm an alcoholic. These are the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. 1. We admitted we are powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continued to take personal inventory, and we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs.
Okay, we have a 7th tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting. We'll pass the baskets around. If by some, there's a basket over there that can do the back. It's on the wall. Okay, there is absolutely no smoking allowed on the church property. It's the only rule. The church kind of insists we don't break. And please silence your cell phones now and limit movement during the meeting so it doesn't distract the speaker. And we'll get to the best part of the meeting. You know, there's some genuinely nice people in AA that you get to meet through this program over time. And some people just have a way of talking, and when you hear them speak the first time, and you go and you talk, and you feel like you know them your whole life, and they're just like so warm and fuzzy. You're like, and so our speaker tonight comes from Galloway Township. I can't remember, a Vision for You group. Lori D. Please welcome her.
Hi, I'm Lori, and I am an alcoholic. I'm going to time myself. Okay, here we go. Thank you so much, Ron. Thank you. My name is Lori. I'm an alcoholic. My sober date is September 19th, 1993. My home group is a Vision for You speaker meeting in Galloway, New Jersey. I have a sponsor, and I sponsor other women, so I'm happy to be here with you. I want to thank Ron so much for inviting me to come and speak. It's such an honor to be invited to come and speak, and I always get nervous before I speak, and I'm going to ask you to just do a quick moment of silence with me. I ask God to put the words in my mouth and the love in my heart that may help somebody. I may say something to help somebody here tonight. And I ask that people's ears be open, that they may hear something that might help them tonight. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to tell my story, okay, what it was like, what happened to bring me into AA, and what it's like now in AA. And when I tell that story, I like to frame it in the frame it in the framework of the 12 steps, because it's the steps that so totally transform my life. And so I'd like to present my story to you in that perspective, okay? So the first step, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, and our lives were unmanageable. I had a real hard time with that one, okay? I had a real hard time with that one. My first drink was when I was about 16. It was Valentine's Day, I remember it well. I had a big girl date, okay? I was living in the New York metropolitan area. I was dating an older man. I think he was 17 or 18, okay? And he was going to take me into Manhattan for dinner for Valentine's Day. Oh, a big girl date, right? Like a real date. And he stood me up. The cad, right? I found out later he bumped into some bimbo that that wasn't expecting dinner in Manhattan, let's just say that. And my parents had a party to go to that night, and my father would not leave me home alone because I was a basket case. I was destroyed. So they made me come with them to the party. So here I am, the only teenager, right, with a party of all adults. What am I doing here? With a broken heart, right? Well, there's an open bar, right? There's liquor on a table, and after a couple of minutes, nobody's watching me, right? So I decided to try a drink, okay, it's good. I don't know what I made, 7 and 7 or something, I don't know, something sweet. And I had another one. And I discovered very quickly, alcohol dulls the pain, It dulls the pain. And I don't know what I had. All I know is I blacked out that night, I made a scene, I embarrassed my parents, got sick, they carted me home, it was a disaster night. And you would think, as a reasonably intelligent kid, I might say, hey, that doesn't agree with me. I'm not going to do that anymore, right? Well, clearly that's not what happened, or else I wouldn't be here, right? I didn't drink anymore in high school. My parents were very strict. They watched me like a hawk. But I went away to college, and there I enjoyed. In fact, not only did I enjoy, I found that alcohol was not a problem for me. Alcohol was my solution to a lot of things. When I was young, I started very badly. I was shy. I was the introvert. I got to college. I had some drinks, fraternity parties, all that stuff. All of a sudden, I'm the socialite, right? I can talk, I can dance, I can flirt. I think I'm pretty. It's like, wow. Alcohol was not my problem. Alcohol was my solution, okay? Now, I would occasionally have these blackouts. And I don't know what I thought. I didn't think. I thought that was just part of drinking. I don't know, okay? But it didn't destroy my college career. I did well. And that's what my problem was, really. That's why I had such a hard time with AA, because I was functioning. I was functioning for many, many years, okay? I did well in college. I had good jobs. I got married. I had 2 kids. I kept my home. I had no problems, okay? Of course, I was a blackout drinker, so I don't have a clue what was going on, okay? I do know when I was married, there were times my husband would be furious with me, okay? And he wouldn't talk to me for a long time, and he wouldn't tell me what I had done or said or something. So that was kind of an uncomfortable feeling. But I wound up divorced when my kids were young, maybe 1 and 3. So here I am, a single parent raising 2 kids, and not really accountable to anybody, and not really getting feedback what was happening. Do you know what I'm saying? The kinds of things but, you see, I didn't drink like you guys, okay? I thought I only drank a little bit too much sometimes, okay? And the kinds of things that would happen when I drank a little bit too much sometimes. Once I came out of a blackout driving the wrong way on the Garden State Parkway, okay, in the middle of the night. Thank God it was the middle of the night, there wasn't a lot of traffic. What brought me out of the blackout was a trucker went the opposite way, and boom, bam, the blast of his horn brought me out of the blackout, okay? And I just, ooh, what's going on? I quickly made a U-turn, got off the parkway. I knew there was going to be a cop around sometime soon, right? And got off. That rattled me. I might have even come to visit you nice people. Once, and then I heard you talk, and I didn't drink like you, right? So, this just happens sometimes to me, not all the time, Another time I came out of a blackout, I was in a hospital in Newark. I don't know how I got to Newark. I don't know why I would go to Newark. I wouldn't do any business in Newark, okay? But I'd lost my car, I'd lost my pocketbook, okay? I'm in conversation with somebody. There's a story in the big book about a woman comes out of a blackout and she's in conversation with somebody. She doesn't know where she is, whose house she's in. That's what I experienced in the hospital. They're trying to interview me, and I come out of this blackout. I don't know who they are or where I am or why I'm there, okay? That one rattled me, definitely rattled me. Again, I might have visited you guys, but I certainly didn't stay. Okay, I certainly didn't stay. Another time, I took down a telephone pole. I didn't bump into it. I took it down. I was told I was very lucky. It was one of the newer kinds that break away on impact. I was coming home from a wedding. I was in a blackout. The only thing I remember was right before impact. I remember just seeing right before impact. And then I remember the car being upside down and crushed, and I'm coming in and out of consciousness. And people had stopped, and I remember them telling me what direction to roll the window because everything's upside down to try to get me out of the car. I mean, I remember them saying, "Oh my God, she's alive." They thought I was dead. And then I remember guys saying, "Let's get her out quick before the car blows up," because I guess there was spilled gas all over and the car's still going. And I mean, they got me out. They got me to the hospital. I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky. I mean, I had a concussion, a broken nose, a split lip. But I've met people in the rooms. I mean, we've all met people in the rooms. I mean, wind up paralyzed or paraplegic or something. And I didn't kill anybody, I just feel I'm very lucky to be alive. And I'd like to tell you that one really got my attention. When I finally eventually made a timeline, okay, somebody, just to skip ahead, how did I come to stay? And one of the things that got my attention, didn't actually get me to stay, but started to plant the seeds, is in these single visits to AA that I would make. Women would approach me and try to help me. And I remember one woman sticking with me for a while, and I would try to explain to her, this stuff didn't happen often, right? And she said, "How often does it have to happen, right?" And then she had me make a timeline, and she said, "Why don't you put on this timeline every incident that you can think of where something happened after you were drinking, and see what the timeline looks like." And she was trying to show me that the disease only gets worse, it never gets better, okay? And by actually plotting these events on a timeline, I could actually see they were getting closer together, closer together, closer together. So that got my attention, but it didn't actually get me to stay. But when I had that timeline done, it was 13 years before that accident where I took down the telephone pole and I actually stayed. So, I mean, they say fear won't get you to stay, right? And that's clear, because I was afraid after incidents like that. What gets you to stay? Okay. That's the miracle, I think. What gets you to stay, the denial that's so deep, okay? What gets you to stay? Well, that woman got my attention, okay, but she didn't get me to stay, okay? What finally, eventually got me to stay was an incident that happened after one of these single visits to AA, okay? I had been, I have to tell you just a little bit about my spiritual pathway, okay? I was one of the, because it's part of this story, I was one of those people, I was very lucky, I had a good religious upbringing, I had a good experience with my church. I was taught as a little child to talk to my higher power like an imaginary friend, okay, to just chat with him. In my religious classes, we had these comic books, whatever age we were at, that's how they pictured the higher power. You know, if we were little kids, it was like a little 6-year-old. If we were teenagers, it was a teenager. But we were taught to talk in our minds to our higher power. And we were actually even taught to then sit and listen, to what he might have to say back to us. It was a good experience for kids, good training. But somewhere in my teens or my 20s, I got God and Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny all mixed up in my head, and I became convinced they're all a fairy tale, right? Right? And this imaginary friend was just an imaginary friend, right? And I spent about 20 years away from any belief in anything. Anything was science and technology and psychology and all the sciences, right, was where my trust was, okay? And then what happened about a year before this event, this is what I have to say, is I wound up back in a faith community, not because I believed anything, because I wanted my kids to have something. Their friends were making communion, and they never seen the inside of a church, and they're asking, what are these parties, and what are we missing? And, you know, they're getting gifts and envelopes, and, right? So I figured they should know something, right? So I wind up back in a faith community, and wouldn't you know, they suck me in. Okay, I make this friend, this woman makes friends with me, and I start talking to her a little bit honestly, and she says to me, nobody can convince anybody God is real. But if you just open your mind enough to pray, talk to him. If God is real, God will show you God is real. I don't have to try to convince you, right? What do you got to lose? If you're wrong, a couple thoughts in your head, right? So what? Well, it's hard to argue with that, right? So I started this thing like I did with a kid, just chatting with my imaginary friend. And we know what happens when we start to pray, right? The little coincidences happen. Is that odd or is that God? And I'm starting to think maybe, just maybe, there's something to this God thing. Maybe, okay? Eventually, I joined this group that commits to meditating every day on the same scripture passages, okay? Now, we talk, I don't want to go forward to the 11th step, but we talk about, you're the conscious contact group, right? We talk about increasing our conscious contact. And that's what I was starting to do. So the story I'm going to tell you now happened during that year, in fact, towards the end of that year, when I'm just opening the channels and increasing my conscious contact. But during that year, my alcoholism is really kicking in hard. Okay, this stuff is happening pretty often that I'm telling you about. Coming home in blackout and not knowing how I got home and looking around the bumper of the car. Is there any blood on it? Is there scraped paint? You know, I have no idea how I'm getting home. Okay? So I have this incident where I'm drunk the night before. I wake up the next morning. I'm hungover. I'm sick. Okay, and I decide I'm going to visit you fine people again, right? So, but I don't want to go anywhere near my home because God forbid somebody should see me at an AA meeting, right? Oh, you know. So I go a distance, and I wind up at a rehab or a detox or something that had an open meeting. Okay, so you could go from the outside, but it's a community. And what had happened that particular day was the night before, somehow they got drugs in on the floor and everybody gotten high, okay? So I walk in, they're all Jones in their seat, who are these people and what am I doing here, right? And I don't realize this has happened except that the speaker doesn't show up for the meeting, okay? So the counselor decides he's going to be the speaker. So he tells his story for about 30 seconds, and then he starts screaming at everybody how they're wasting this opportunity to save their lives, and yak, 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 and how could they, and Get me out of here, right? I'm mom and apple pie. I coach I go to brownies, right? I mean, what is this, right? So I leave there. I am never going back there. Never, never, never am I going back there again. I'm now convinced I do not belong here, okay? Well, the next day, I'm still sick. It must have been a bad one. I mean, I can't even put nail polish on. I mean, because my alcoholism is pretty bad at that time, even though I'm still in denial, okay? So this next day, this is why I told you the other story. The next day, I wind up sitting in prayer, and it's what I call my angry prayer. What the hell do you want out of my life, right? I mean, I went to that stupid place. I don't belong there. What the hell do you want? Except I didn't. I was really kind of, okay, I was expressing myself, okay? You can call it my angry prayer. You can call it my honest prayer, however you want to say it. But I sat then, and I just was quiet. And I got to tell you, something came over me so strong. I didn't see a white light, I didn't hear a voice, but it was strong. And I had to go to a meeting right then. I mean, I had to. And now, okay? So I went, okay? Again, I went like an hour away from my home, I get there, it's a step meeting, I don't know what they're talking about, blah, blah, blah. I just, I don't know. But some woman shares, in the course of her sharing, about driving drunk with her kids in the car. Now, at this point in my life, my kids are off to college. They're grown and gone. But this stirred a memory of something that had happened to me when my kids were maybe 8 and 10 or 10 and 12, about that age, where we had gone down the shore for the weekend, just the girls and I, and we had a motel room, and we went out to get Chinese food to take out to bring back to the motel room. And the next morning, they told me I drove back to the motel room on the wrong side of the highway. Now, I didn't believe them, okay? They were at that age. Do you kids ever get that? They're stealing my cigarettes, they're doing tag team, they're tormenting me. I thought they made it up. I didn't believe them. How could such a thing be? But there was an empty bottle of scotch in the room, and there were empty Chinese food containers, okay? But I thought they made it up. Okay, I didn't believe them. And I never thought of that again until this meeting where this woman talks about driving drunk with her kids in the car, and it was like, I didn't remember the incident, I relived it. I could see the headlights, I could hear my children screaming. I was horrified. Okay, and I'm in the middle of this meeting, and I start shaking and crying, and I start blabbering of what this memory was. You know something? They stopped the meeting. They changed it to a first step meeting. It was unbelievable. And they read that part about raising the bottom. Okay, about many people come into AA before they've lost everything. And somebody said to me, wouldn't it be nice if you got sober before you killed somebody? Wouldn't that be nice? We got a lot of people come into AA after they kill somebody. You say you're driving blackout? Wouldn't it be nice if you got sober before you killed anybody, let alone yourself? That's what made me stay, okay? And when I look back at it, I mean, improve my conscious contact with my God. I mean, I believe my God broke through my denial that day. I mean, I said, what the hell do you want out of my life? I'll show you what I want, right? And bang. Because what hit me, if I could do something so horrible and forget about it, what else might have happened? What else might have happened? So I stayed. And then I started doing AA with a vengeance, because I'm going to do this, you know what I mean? I'm not an in-between person, right? It's either this extreme or that extreme, right? And I'm going to just do it. Well, I'm going to tell you what I heard in the AA meetings. It may not have been what people were saying, okay? There might have been a lot of good things people were saying, but what I heard was don't drink, go to meetings, okay? Hang with us, you'll be okay. If something has you upset, share about it, okay? Talk about it. Don't let yourself be upset. Share about it. I did a lot of sharing, let me tell you. They also said, just stop drinking and you'll feel better. Just stop drinking, you'll feel better. I guess they were right. I felt better. I felt anger better. Okay. I felt depression better. Okay. I felt anxiety better. And when I heard you share and my memory started to surface, I certainly felt guilt better. Okay. I felt horrible. Okay. I felt every emotion better than I had ever felt it when I was drinking, because it was that first message. Alcohol dulls the pain, right? Alcohol dulls the thinking. Alcohol allows me to live in denial, right? Now I'm not drinking, and it's like I become like an emotional volcano. Okay, I have feelings I don't have a clue how to deal with. I have feelings I never knew I had. Okay? Whoa. Now, I'm going to AA. I'm going 7 days a week. I'm going even more than once a day because I'm also, should I mention, I'm having a hard time holding a job at this point. I was drinking. I held jobs just fine. Okay? I'm not drinking. I'm becoming an emotional basket case. My emotions are all over the place. I'm losing jobs. Right? So now I'm out of work half the time because I can't control myself. Okay, what does it say? Page 52? Anybody ever read page 52? Yeah. The bedevilments. Oh, yes. Sober. We were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were a prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of any real help to other people. Yeah. That described me pretty well. Okay. In the rooms of AA, getting sicker and sicker and sicker every day. Okay. So what happened after about 2.5 years? You talk about hitting a bottom. I hit my bottom in AA. Okay. After about 2.5 years of this, okay, my emotions are all over the place. Now my family is getting more worried than they ever were about me. Okay. My family, God bless them. Okay. They, I don't know who they called, what they did. The men with the white coats came and slapped handcuffs on me and carted me off to a psych ward against my will. At 2.5 years, I can't really say sober. Well, I guess dry, okay? But going to AA every day, okay? Getting so sick. Well, thank you, God. Right before this incident, I had met the woman who is still my sponsor to this day. Okay, the first 2.5 years, I had a lot of sponsors, man. I mean, I went through them right and left. None of them did it right, okay? So I'd go on and on and on to the next one, right? Okay, eventually somebody said to me, okay, that you may want to think about, the big book. You may want to try to read something about the solution. You may even want to try big book meetings, people are trying to guide me to, there is a solution here. You don't have to be miserable, right? And I thank you, God, I'd hooked up with the woman that I'm still with now just before this incident. And she was just starting to take me through the steps a little bit, just getting to know me, and this thing happens. Well, thank you, God. She was convinced that I hadn't totally gone over the deep end. She knew I had a lot of anger issues. She knew I had a lot of issues. In fact, the first thing she said to me is, shut up about your issues, right? I mean, you're not going to learn anything if you're talking all the time, right? So stop sharing all your issues in the meetings and shut up and listen, and you may hear something, right? What a concept, right? So I'm getting a little guidance for the first time, okay? And I called her from the hospital, and thank you, God, she knew an attorney in the program, and together they sprung me out of there. Now, it was over Thanksgiving weekend. I did have to spend 3 days in the belly of the whale. It was really nasty, okay? But Monday, when the doctors came in, my attorney was on the phone with them first thing, okay? Because there are laws, you can't just kidnap people and throw them into psych wards. I mean, there's things you're supposed to do first, okay? But anyway, that's a long story. I don't want to go there. But he does get me out, but I had to go before these 3 doctors, this board of doctors who's going to decide if I'm totally a lunatic or whether they can let me go. And I was scared, and I have to tell you, I prayed before that too. I said, God, put the words in my mouth, because I don't know what they want to hear. I don't know what they're looking for. You know, I'm asking my attorney, what should I say? He said, I don't know, just answer the questions, don't lose your temper. I mean, that's the best thing I can say. And I'm a chain smoker, and they're not letting me smoke, okay? The nerve of them. They're not even giving me a patch. They want to give me, what is that thing, Thorazine, where you drool? I mean, I just, so I'm a nicotine withdrawal. I'm like about to cut anyone's head off. And my attorney just says, don't lose your temper, whatever you do, right? So I did. I went before these doctors, and thank you, God, whatever happened, they let me go. Thank you, God. Because if they hadn't, I would probably be spending the rest of my days on Thorazine or whatever they wanted to pump me full of. Whew. But you talk about willingness. Okay, I came out of there. My new sponsor is now my angel, my heroine, the savior of my life. Whatever she says, I'm doing. Okay, I'm doing. And she started me on this journey. She started me on this journey. And what a journey this has been. What a journey this has been. I'm so grateful to her. I'm so grateful. And she keeps saying, you know, I'm only an instrument. I'm only told you what I did. You know, what I love about her, the reason we're together all these years, is she never tells me what to do. She'll tell me what she did in a similar situation, or she'll say, I don't have that experience, but you ever hear so-and-so sharing the rooms, you know, go talk to them. See how they got through it, right? I mean, she's like that. She's not a I'll tell you what to do kind of sponsor. But she's a definite big book thumper, okay? She's a definite big book thumper. She says, you know, no psychobabble here. We're just going to do meat and potatoes. If it's in the book, we're going to do it. If it's not in the book, we're not going to do it. It's that simple, okay? And one of the things that attracted me to her in the first place was we did share this same kind of spiritual disciplines, okay? I mean, this business with meditation and all that stuff. I mean, I'm deep into it at this point, thank goodness, and she's also. That's what attracted me to her. And so she's using prayer and meditation with every step with me, and that's helping me. That's helping me. We got to the third step, and well, she knows. I mean, I've done that, so let's move on, you know. And she says, whoa, not so fast, okay? But I have turned my life and my will over to the care of my God. And she says, yeah, but when we do that in the rooms, we mean something a little different than I think you're talking about. So she had me read these pages 60 to 63, where it describes what do we mean by the third step. And I read it, and that's nice. But she said, you know something, put your own name in this. And put the name of anybody that you may have some kind of uneasiness with. She didn't even say resentment. She just said uneasiness with. So the first time through, I read it like in terms of, let's say, one of my grown daughters that I was having a little issue with at the time, okay? And I'm saying grown daughter. She's not 16. She's married with a husband and kids of her own, right? So grown daughter, okay? So on page 60, it says, being convinced we're at step 3, and just what do we mean by that, and what do we do when we decide to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood, okay? So the first requirement is that Lori be convinced that Lori's life on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, Lori is almost always in collision with someone or somebody, especially her grown daughter, okay? Even though Lori's motives are good, okay? Because Lori knows what her daughter should do, okay? Clearly, right? Clearly, okay? I just have to persuade her. Lori's like the actor who wants to run the whole show. Now, I'm the actor. I'm supposed to show up and read my script, right? But I think I'm the director, and I'm going to tell everybody else how to read their scripts, right? Oh, yeah. Now this is starting to make sense to me, right? Lori's like the actor who wants to run the whole show, forever trying to arrange the rest of the players, trying to arrange her grown daughter, to raise those beautiful grandchildren the way Lori knows they should be raised, okay? Oh, yeah. If only Lori's arrangement would stay put, if only her daughter would do as she wished, the show would be great. Everybody would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. Oh, yeah. What usually happens? Show doesn't come off very well, right? Lori starts to think life doesn't treat her very well, so she starts to exert herself a little bit more, okay? Still, it doesn't go well. Well, admitting Lori may be somewhat at fault, she's sure that the daughter is more to blame, right? And on it goes, and on and on. What happens? What happens? We know what happens, right? Selfishness, self-centeredness, that is the root of our troubles, not mine. Maybe yours, not mine. Selfish, self-centered, I've raised these kids as a single parent, self-sacrificing all my life, right? Oh, the importance of a good sponsor, huh? My sponsor helped me see selfish and self-centered, okay? I had the core belief that I was always right, okay? And my only job was to persuade you that I was right, okay? She said, that's the height of self-centeredness. There's no other way to look at anything other than the way you look at it. Maybe you are right sometimes. Maybe you're not. Maybe she's got a point of view. Maybe it's not the same as yours. She's not 12. She's a grown adult. And she may look at things differently. You think you have the solution for her life? Why don't you work out the solution for your own life? Wow. So step 3 was an eye-opener for me. I had a good prayer life, okay? But as I came to learn after going through these pages with my sponsor, my prayer life, I'm still talking to Santa Claus. Do this, do that, fix this one, give me this, give me that, right? That's my prayer life. I'm telling God the plan, okay? I'm giving him my plan and asking him to implement it, right? Wow. I didn't realize that. Until she guided me through this. And the way we pray now is different. God, I offer myself to you. Do with me as you wish. Build with me as you wish. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that bondage that I think I'm always right. Okay? Relieve me of that. Take away my difficulties. Not that I should live happily ever after. I'm not living happily ever after. I'm sorry. But take away my I'm pretty happy, but it's not the fairy tale. Okay? Take away my difficulties so that victory over them can bear witness to those I would help of your power, your love, your way of life. That's a different way of praying. I had still been talking to Santa Claus, and I didn't realize. So that helped me tremendously. Steps 4 through 9 changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. Before step 4, if I was upset, it was something you did to upset me, okay? I'm going to be fine if you would just stop doing what you're doing that upsets me, okay? Little did I know, after going through this step exactly the way it is in the big book, I could make a list of the people that I had resentments against. I could tell you why I had resentments against them. I could tell you what was affected. But when it came to that 4th column, the 4th column of the 4th step, oh my goodness. We turn back to the list of all those things that those rotten people did to me, okay? And we prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. Wow. Putting out of my mind the wrongs others had done. Where was I to blame? What had I done to set the ball in motion? How could I behave differently in the future in a similar situation? Wow. That was eye-opening for me. I can remember when I first went through this, I had a name on the list, somebody that had been oil and water at odds with my entire life. And I had perfectly valid, good reasons. They weren't neurotic. They were real stuff that happened. But in doing this process, I came to see, with my sponsor's help, I came to see that I had choices. And I didn't realize I had choices, okay? I heard somewhere in the rooms that having a resentment is a placeholder. Placeholder for what? Okay. That it's a placeholder for a life skill I haven't developed yet in how to protect myself, either from toxic personalities. There are such things, okay, as toxic personalities or difficult people. I hadn't learned how to protect myself or to get myself out of situations without conflict, okay? Kind of sidestepping like the bullfighter does rather than being in conflict, okay? Wow, that's a whole new way to look at things. I remember going to a workshop on preparing for the holidays, okay? And I have a few difficult personalities in my family, maybe a few of you have, I mean, I don't know, okay? So much so that sometimes I would dread being with some of these people. And I went to this workshop, this recovery workshop, and it had to do with preparing for the holidays, and they talked about those difficult personalities to prepare with subjects that they like to talk about. You know, Google in the news or what's going on, you know, stuff for them to talk about themselves, right? So when they start on me, I can change the subject, let them talk about themselves, leave the table, go play with the kids, do something, right? But just sidestep it, right? Wow, what a concept, right? Family gatherings got to be more pleasant, okay? And they didn't change any, but I had to learn some life skills, okay? And a lot of my resentments were that. I was such the victim, you know. Wow, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn. How to get along in life, okay? The fears, I didn't think I had any fears, okay? Then my sponsor helped me see that fear covers anger. I didn't know that. No. Anger, I had it backwards. Anger covers fear. I had a lot of angers. Anger covers fear. So when I got to the bottom of the angers, then I saw they were all underneath fears. Okay. I don't know if this fits in order, but at 4 years sober, I wound up taking a cross-country trip. This thing with the hospital, it happened at 2.5 years sober, okay? And my sponsor helped me through the steps, but on this incident, I had a hard time getting past this. And my sponsor, she didn't press it. She said, you know, give yourself some time, you were traumatized. And I kind of became estranged from my grown kids. I became estranged from my extended family, whoever was involved in this thing. I became estranged from my family. And by 4 years sober, I was like going to make a geographic change, okay? I mean, what can I say? I had a girl, my best friend, her brother lived out in Arizona, and he's saying, oh my goodness, you can come out here, you can live so cheap, you sell that house in the New York Metropolitan, invest the money, you can live, you don't have to work. You know, oh man, this sounded great. And I'm out of work anyway, so I take this cross-country trip, and I camped cross-country. Now you talk about nuts. Okay, a middle-aged woman, I'm camping cross-country alone, right? Come on, give me a break, right? But I'm going to AA all the way across the country, okay? Every place I went, I'm going to AA meetings. Unbelievable. First of all, I came back from it, I feel so safe. We are connected to something so big. No matter where you go, you just call the local number, they tell you where the meetings are. If you're in the Midwest, there's no meetings, you're once a week, you're 3 hours away. They'll talk to you if you're squirrely. I mean, it's just amazing. It's amazing. We're connected to something so big, okay? The first night on that trip, you talk about fear. Oh my God, I'm camped, I'm this only, you know, it's like October, you know, school's in. I'm the only person in this campsite, I mean, it's dark, and the fear that closed in was not the fear of the dark. I had this incredible fear that they were right. I am nuts. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. And that fear, you know, this 1.5 years of rage that I felt toward everybody, it was really a fear that deep down they were right. I'm not all here. And I started praying that night, okay? And again, I have to tell you, something came over me so strong. And I don't think I've ever felt that kind of fear again. It was unbelievable. And God was so close on that trip, so close. I know why people went on pilgrimages now years ago. It had nothing to do with where you're going. It was like alone and vulnerable and so totally dependent on God. God was very close on that trip. And boy, I had some experience. I could talk a whole 2 hours just about AA experiences on that trip. Unbelievable, unbelievable. My sponsor taught me you don't dump your stuff in the rooms, okay? You don't dump it. We're here for the newcomer. We're here to talk about solutions. We're here to give a ray of hope. You don't dump your stuff in the rooms like I was in the beginning, but hell, I'm 500 miles from home, right? What do I care? I'm never going to see these people again, right? So I'm in this one meeting and something comes up about family and I'm blah, 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 blah. And this crusty old guy in the back, he says, you ought to read Freedom from Bondage. He said, there's a story in the big book. I said, I've read that. He said, well, read it again. So I had a big book with me, and I did. I read it again that night, and okay. The next night, I'm 500 miles away. And I'm in an AA meeting, and this is still on my head, and something comes up about family, I'm bop, 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 bop. Do you know some crusty old guy in the back says to me, you ought to read Freedom from Bondage. I said, I just read it last night. He said, you got to do more than read it, you got to do it, And that's where it says, if somebody's injured you, you need to pray for them. You need to pray for them, right? Wow. That was an incredible trip, I'll tell you. It was incredible. The messages were unbelievable. I went out there to look for a place to live, to get away, that I'd never see my family again. Every message I got was go home and make peace, go home and make peace, go home and make peace. And I thank you, God, that those were the messages. Because it was, they say that depending upon God, I've heard this story, I love this story. Depending upon God is like being a sailor in the olden days. Sometimes you'd hear the stories, they'd fall overboard. And if there was like a school of dolphins, sailors have told these stories that when they're going down for the third time, the dolphins will bop them up like almost like a beach ball till the ship has time to turn around and come and get them again. They say that's what depending on God is like. If we depend on a person, they're going to let us down sometime. But if we depend on God, we never know who's going to come along and just bop us up when we're going down for the third time. And that's what happened to me on that trip. Strangers, things that came out of the mouths of strangers healed this rage that I had. And I went home wanting to make peace, not finding a new place to live in the Southwest. It was incredible. And I'm so grateful that that's what happened. Because I have to tell you, just to fast forward, going through these steps and making amends and going home and being ready to make peace, I have wonderful relationships with my daughters now. Thank you, God. I have beautiful grandchildren. I see them all the time. What I would have missed if I had done that. Oh, my God. My sponsor, she didn't want me to go on this trip, but she said, yeah, you got to go. But she used to say, don't miss grandchildren. You think you want to go live out there? You think you're going to never talk to your kids again? She said, you better find a way to get past this somehow, because don't miss having grandchildren. And one of my favorite sayings is, grandchildren are the reward for not killing your kids when they were teenagers, right? And it's true. It's a wonderful, I just thank God I came home. I thank God we made peace. I really do. She took me through this step work, the resentments, the fears, the guilts. I had a lot of guilt about my child raising that had no resentments attached to them, but my kids never knew what to expect. I was either super mom or I'm like the screaming witch of the West, right? I mean, they never knew what to expect. And I had a lot of guilt about that, so I had to get past all that stuff. And this step work was great. Doing the 5th step with her was incredible. Now, I have to tell you, I was in and out of doctors' offices all my adult life. I told you I stuttered as a kid, so I wound up in therapy from when I was 5th grade on. And I had therapy. I dealt with depression and anxiety. What did I know? Alcoholism, right? I'm in denial. So, why am I depressed and why am I angry and why? So I'm in all of these offices. And I have nothing against doctors, please. Doctors do a lot of good work. Don't get me wrong. But with me, with being in denial about alcoholism, I'm not giving them the facts, right? And it seemed whatever doctor I went to, their expertise was what my diagnosis was, right? Right? When I went to the psychologists, okay, we talked about my childhood. I had to analyze my childhood. There was plenty to analyze. But we did all that stuff, right? When I went to psychiatrists, I had to be on meds. I couldn't live without meds. I had some chemical imbalance or something. Little did I know, if you stop putting chemicals in your system balances a little bit, right? What a concept, But I'm still in denial. Okay, when I went to neurologist, I had so many head injuries. Well, I never told them about the drinking and the blackouts and the car accidents. I just had a lot of head injuries, right? It was so confusing. I would actually pray, God, please send me to the right doctors. This is too confusing, right? Little did I know Dr. Bob was the doctor I needed, right? But I'm not giving these guys the information because I was in denial, right? So how could you ever, well, anyway. What was so wonderful about the fifth step with my sponsor was, instead of the healer trying to tell me what I should do to get better, it was just another woman in recovery, sharing her experiences as I'm sharing mine, so that I don't feel like the crumb of the earth, which is how I was feeling. Like I would share something and she'd say, let me think about that, Gee, I think I'm doing the same thing with my son-in-law. I'm going to have to look at that, right? Like it was that kind of a thing, so that I didn't feel so horrible. A lot of the stuff I had done, she had done the same stuff. Okay, and some of the stuff I had done, she had not done the same stuff. But she recommended that I talk to some other people. She was married since she was 16. Her husband is the love of her life. My life took a different path. But there were women in the room that she referred me to, as far as, I'm not doing my fifth step from the podium, but kind of use your imagination, right? I mean, there's stuff that I wasn't real proud of, right? So the fifth step with her was very freeing, okay? 6 and 7 became ready for God to take away all my defects of character. That's where she said all the change comes from, okay? All the change. 4 and 5, we become aware of what our character defects are, right? That's the awareness. Now we have to say, God, please, help me, help me. The first time through the steps was the most dramatic for me. I had relationship problems with everybody I knew, okay? And so 6 and 7 was a lot of, God, help me to change the way I am with these people. And she said it's very important to keep that be your focus. Because if 7 turns into praying for them, or praying that they change, then you're back talking to Santa Claus again, right? Change them, fix them, change them. You have to keep in mind the 7th step is change me, The 7th step prayer in the book is beautiful, beautiful. But she said, you need a little extra help, she said. Because 10 minutes after the 5th step, I'm back to thinking about what they're doing to me, right? So she said for my 7th step that I should make file cards of those people, they're still currently in my life, my family, and put on there, turn my 4th column of my 4th step, where am I to blame, what should I do differently, turn that into your 7th step prayer to pray when you're going to be in interaction with this person, okay, so that you remember it's you that needs to change, not them, okay, like there was one family member, my whole life, oil and water, just, My 7th step prayer for me with her was, God, please. You know how she gets under my skin, okay? Please, help me not show it, okay? In my facial expression, in my tone of voice, in my body language, help me not show it. Because she irritates me just to say hello. Okay? She can't say anything right, okay? We have such a history. Please let me drop that. Let me listen to her as if I'm listening to my best friend. Wow. And then part of my, jumping ahead a little bit, part of my amends work with this person was a difficult personality. It wasn't just me that had difficulty getting along with her. So my amends work with her was not to go up to her and say, hey, I've always bothered me, No. My amends work was to simply, anytime people in the family were talking, can you believe what she said, how could she do that? That I had to counter it with something positive. That was true. There was one Christmas Eve where somebody brought a guest, a date. And she didn't like when people brought dates. She wanted to just be family, And she said something so rude to this person that they left early, okay? And the others, how could she say that? Bah, 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 bah. And I listened. I was pretty annoyed too, but I said, she had dinner. She made the dinner, She cleaned her house before we came over. Maybe she was tired and grumpy. I don't know. But she had us over, right? Those kinds of things. To always counter it with something positive, to get my head into something positive. Do you know that relationship so healed over the years? I can't tell you. I mean, I think of that as the miracle of recovery, the miracle of recovery. That relationship so healed that the last 10 years, I guess I can say it now. I never like to say who it was. This is my mother I'm talking about. And I would never say that while she was still alive, but she's passed now. And I think I can say that the most incredible miracle of recovery was what happened to our relationship. I mean, the last 10 years of her life, I'm not talking about a deathbed amends. I'm talking about the last 10 years of her life. We got so close. Not only was I trying to make amends to her, she wound up in a different 12-step recovery that I'm also in. I'm getting a lot of help, okay? And she, at the age of 80, was trying to do step work to the best of her ability. So she's trying to make amends. I'm trying to make amends. We're both trying to live a better life. And I'm telling you, we got to be like best friends. I mean, we got to be talking every day, chatting on the phone, all this kind of stuff. When she did pass away, God bless her, she got sick over a summer when I was free to go and visit her. She was still in North Jersey. I'm now in South Jersey. I got to spend the last 6 weeks with her when she was in the hospital, and she took a quick nosedive. I hope I go that fast. I mean, really, the details are not important. But what is important is, I'm telling this all out of sequence, I'm sorry. But what is important is the last couple of days, when she, hospice came and ministering morphine and stuff, and she can't really talk anymore. And the doctors had said, no, she had 1 million people visiting her from the church and this thing, cut out the visitors and stuff. And so the last couple of days, it was just me. Now, what do you talk about anymore? I've been with her for 6 weeks, right? Kind of out of small talk. But as the result of doing these steps, and I'm telling you about the first time through, I've recycled formally several times. And the last time through, living in 10 and 11 and 12, I didn't have a whole lot of resentments. And when I was preparing names for the 4th step, the most incredible thing happened to me is childhood memories, happy childhood memories surfaced. Stuff I never even knew was there. Okay? Because they were covered, like it says in the book. The resentments block the sunlight of the spirit, right? There were beautiful things that happened. Okay? And because I had done that work, and because I had cycled through the steps again just about a year or so before she passed away, they're right on the tip of my tongue. So those last 2 days, I can say to her, Ma, do you remember when you were the brownie leader and we had day camp on such and such a street, this and that happened? And she'd smile. Hey, Ma, you remember the first time you took me to the theater? On Broadway, and we got standing room, and we saw My Fair Lady, and those kinds of memories were just rolling off the tip of my tongue. And I never would have had that awareness if I had not done this work. It was incredible. What a gift. What a gift. It was beautiful, beautiful. But that's 7, 6, and 7, 8, and 9. I guess I'm not that far out of sequence, okay? So 8 and 9, making the list of everybody that I had harmed. Most of that came off the 4th step list, all those people that had done me wrong, right? I had stuff that I could see now that I had a part with. And there were other things that I felt guilty about. When I first began this, I want to include this because we talk about step 12 as having had a spiritual awakening. For me, the spiritual awakening came with the 8th and 9th step. That's where you see, I thought the spiritual awakening were for you guys if you didn't have a relationship with God like I had with God. I didn't really need a spiritual awakening, right? Because I'm cool. Except what happened to me in 8 and 9 was incredible. Because when I made that list of names of people to whom I owed amends, okay, no sooner were those names on the list that people started showing up on my doorstep. I couldn't believe it. I made this 8-step list, just like it says in the book, on the same day as my 5th step. My sponsor said, go home and pray, say your 7-step prayer, and then start your 8th step, right? So no sooner did I have those names on the list. There was a guy on the list, I hadn't seen him in 5 years. He'd moved out of the area. Like the next week, I'm at some workshop for my job, okay? Which is not his field of expertise, by the way, but he walks into this workshop. There he is. I'm not prepared for this, right? And he says, oh, let's have lunch. I haven't seen you in a while. This and that. Oh, geez. So I wind up saying what I have to say to him. I mean, I'd said some terrible things to him at one point when I was in my crazy mood swings. And he was amazing. He just put his hand on my hand. He said, oh, that never really upset me. I knew you were going through a hard time at that time. I knew it didn't have anything to do with me. It's fine. It's never bothered me. I said, yeah, but it's always bothered me. Every time I think of you, I cringe, right? And he said, it's okay, it's okay. And this wonderful feeling of peace came over me. It was beautiful. I couldn't wait to do the next one, right? I got home, I called my sponsor, you'll never believe what happened, blah, blah, blah. She says, of course I'm going to believe what happens. This is what happens. When we truly turn our life and our will over to the care of God and we make the decision that we're going to do these steps so that we'll have a better relationship with God. You don't think God's going to help you? Of course he does this. Okay. A couple weeks after that, not long, okay, family member who's on the list lives halfway across the country. And he calls me, says he's got business in New York, and I live still close to New York, and can he come and stay with me a few days? I'm not ready for this. I'm still mad at something he did when I was 6 years old, right? And here he's coming in, no wife, no kids, no wedding, no funeral. He's just going to stay with me. We have to talk to each other. Wow. So I call my sponsor. I say, I'm not ready for this one. She says, you're not ready. You're not ready. There he is on your 8th step list. God has delivered him onto your doorstep, and you're telling me you're not ready? She says, why don't you ask God to make you ready? Because you may not get this chance again any too soon. Maybe you will. God's not going to drop you if you can't do it. But here he is providing you the opportunity, and this is exactly where you are. So why don't you just ask God to make you ready? So I don't know, we did small talk for 3 days, right? And I'm driving him back to the airport on the last day, and I'm figuring, oh, this is the end, okay? So I got to I kind of mumble in the car what I have to say. And I'm telling you, picture your worst nightmare of a reaction to a 9th step, okay? A rub your nose in it, just humiliate you, bad, okay? I couldn't wait to get to the airport, just, hit the eject button and get him out, and I don't want to see him again for another 5 years. And I got home, I called my sponsor. Did you believe what he said? She says, what? You think you're the only sick puppy in this family? She says, he doesn't sound like he's equipped for this kind of a conversation. He sounds like he's sicker than you are. Why don't you pray for him? Why don't you pray for him? Wow. Now, I thought that was a bad amend, but actually it was a really good amend because he lost power over me. He lost power over me. I wasn't having arguments with him in my head anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? He was just another person. And I really got free of the upset I felt. I'm upset. He's out there playing golf somewhere, right? The only upset was in my head, right? And I got free of that, from that amends. So I tell that story to just say, trust the process, okay? And I know one of the speakers I love says, when you're new, we're not going to ask you how you feel. We don't really care how you feel. It's not going to be good. We just want to ask you what you do. What are you doing in the step work? And I used to think that was a really uncompassionate thing to say. But now I can see it, because this amend did not feel good. But it worked. It worked. And that's another relationship that has healed tremendously. Because I think my expectations got more realistic of what family members should be for each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, not some romanticized childhood ideal. but we're just all of us, real people with real character defects and real imperfections, and I want you to take me with my imperfections, right? Why not be willing to take others with their imperfections and try to look at what's good and not focus on what's bad? What a concept. What a concept. So my family relations, I have to tell you, they're beautiful. I mean, I'm at peace with everybody. Everybody. Not every minute of every day, but if I'm not at peace, I know how to get back to peace, okay? And 4 through 9 absolutely, absolutely revolutionized my life, more than any doctor I ever went to. Not to put the doctors down, but I learned how to be honest. First of all, I'm not in denial. I'm telling you the real stuff, and now I can find real solutions. So I'm very grateful for that. 10, 11, and 12, I try very hard to stay in 10, 11, and 12. I do review my day, okay? I do stop in the middle of the day when something happens. Not all the time, but more often than used to be, okay? That if there's an upset, I will stop. I have learned to keep my mouth shut, when I'm upset. What do they talk about? Restraint of tongue and pen. Oh, my goodness, okay? I've learned that. Thank God for cell phones. I've learned to go somewhere and call my sponsor or somebody in my network, this is what's going on, and I don't see it, right? But even just venting it helps at the moment sometimes, to just not create, not inflame, and then reflect on what could I do differently, okay, and just get back to peace. Step 11, it's everything. It's everything. The book is so clear, it tells us just what to do. Upon retiring at night, we review our day. Okay, now I have a spiritual director, he so helped me how to review our day. He says, the best way is to watch your day, meditate and watch the day as if you're watching it on TV, from the minute you woke up to whatever happened during the day. And if there's any irritation or upset or something, then stop and ask yourself the questions in the book. Where was I selfish? Where was I fearful? Because if I just say, was I selfish today? Never. Right? But if somebody got me annoyed sometime, then I have to think about it. And maybe I was a little selfish there, or maybe I was expecting them to do a little more the way I thought it should be done. Do you know what I'm saying? I can only see my stuff in the light of an event. I don't see my stuff just saying, today, I was wonderful today. Okay, boom. Some days there are no upsets. And then I can say, thank you, God, what a beautiful day this was. Right? In the morning, I do meditate. I read some conference books. I read some books that are not conference. But I always read something first, because when I wake up, guess who I'm thinking about? Okay? So I need to read something to get my thoughts less self-centered and more other-centered or God-centered, however you want to say it. And I'll sit in meditation, and I love it. And I try to do that most every day. There's a secretary where I work. She doesn't know anything about what this stuff is, but she can call it if I haven't meditated that day. So what's with you today? You're wired, you're different, right? It changes. It changes me. It changes me. So I try to do it often. I'm also part of a religious, secular group, not a religious order, but a group within my religion. And as it says in the book, if you have certain religious practices to do them. And we have formal prayers that we say every 3 hours. And I actually set the little chime on my phone, and I do it for the most part. And it helps me improve my conscious contact. And it helps me remember to think about God all day. And remember to ask him for help. And remember to chat with him like my imaginary friend. And it helps me. It helps me. And then finally, step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of working these steps. It has happened to me, even though I didn't think I needed one. It has happened to me. Because my God has become so real to me. So real. I mean, I always believed in God when I came into the rooms, but I didn't realize how he actually takes part in my life when I ask him to. And that's incredible, because that, again, makes me feel so safe and so secure. And it's good. And carry this message. I try to any time that I can. I really do. I don't say no if I possibly can. I just feel like I owe my life. I mean, I owe my life. I just... The peace of this life is incredible. The peace of this life. I want to just tell one quick 12-step story, if I could, please. It's my favorite story. It's like we never know how are we going to touch somebody. We never know. There was this woman in and out of the rooms. We all know people like that, in and out, in and out, in and out. She finally I tried to sponsor her for a while. She moved away. She called me. Okay, and she was living with some guy, and they had had a fight, and he had beat her up, and she's clearly drunk, and she's saying, get me out of here, take me to a hospital, this and that. And I knew, and I was between jobs at the time, so I could. So I knew I shouldn't go alone, so I called this other woman I knew, who I knew was also not working. She was in the depths of depression. Her daughter had just been killed not too long ago. Guess what? Living with a guy, they were both high, they had a fight, the guy pulls a gun, kills her, right? So she's in the depths of depression. So I called her, she went with me. She had enough good recovery, she knew she had to go with me. So we're driving down, it's a rough area, we get there, and I said, my God, I'm scared. Okay. And she turns to me and she says, I'm scared. And we're realizing we're walking into the same situation where her daughter just got killed. It's the same scene. Okay? So at the base of the elevator of these projects, and she says, let's say a prayer. And we hold hands at the base of the elevator, okay? And we say this prayer that God should protect us, okay? And again, we feel this sense of peace. Both of us felt it. And the fear was lifted. I'm telling you, we went upstairs. We did what we had to do. The boyfriend answered the door, belligerent. But he let us in, and we cleaned her up. We got her dressed. We got her to a hospital. Next day, she sobered up, checked herself out, right? She's gone. Never heard from her again. Okay? But the fear was lifted. The fear was lifted. But the reason I like to tell this story is because a couple years later, who walks into our home group? The boyfriend. The boyfriend had gotten sober from that day. Can you imagine? Who knew? Okay, and I guess somebody was taking him through the steps, and he was supposed to make amends, but no one could find her. So I guess she had talked about the home group. So the sponsor said, hey, why don't you go track down that home group and see if you, and he came and he told the story, he told his story, it was like, oh, we never know who we're going to touch. Never know, never know. We may be the only big book anybody is ever going to read. So with that, I just want to close. I'm sorry I kept you late. I know I'm over time. It's just, it's a beautiful way of life. That's all I can say. I feel healthier than I've ever felt. I feel younger than I've ever felt. I have more energy than I had when I was out there. I mean, it's just a wonderful life. And so if you're new, or if you're coming back, or even if you're here for a while and you're not happy and full of enthusiasm, grab a big buck thumping sponsor and take a trip with us. Okay, that's it.
That was awesome. Next week we have Jim Bach from New Jersey coming. It's going to be a party. One last round. She's come all the way around across. Always a pleasure. We have a nice way of closing. If you'd like to join us with the Lord's Prayer.